What's up, sports fans? Welcome to V Sports Insider. So there is a possibility that Saul Canelo Alvarez teams up with Eddie Hearn of Matchroom Boxing. We're gonna analyze that in this video. We're gonna talk about that, so stay tuned. So welcome to the program. A lot of things were being said on the post-fight press conference for Canelo Alvarez's victory against Callum Smith. A lot of interesting things were being said, and one of those things was a question by a reporter to Canelo if he is planning to fight in Japan and around the world, and Eddie Reynoso responded that they would love to do so. They would love to go to Japan, they would love to go to Africa to fight in Europe, in the UK, in Mexico. And after that he said, Eddie, it's all on you. And he said that repeatedly, and that's very significant, that's very interesting. We're gonna analyze what's the possibility of Canelo Alvarez teaming up with Eddie Hearn of Matchroom Boxing for some of his future fights. So the number one thing to consider here is that Team Canelo Alvarez and Eddie Hearn have already a very good partnership, very good cooperation, and have a history of doing business together. If you look at Canelo's DAZN deal, ever since he came to DAZN, 3 out of the 4 fights were either co-promoted or promoted by Eddie Hearn. So Rocky Fielding, it was the Golden Boy promotion, co-promoted with Matchroom Boxing. Daniel Jacobs, the same thing. Sergey Kovalev, not so much, but Callum Smith, this is the first fight since Canelo Alvarez got out of his contract with Golden Boy, and basically Eddie Hearn was the main promoter for this fight. Number 2 thing is that many of the fighters that are considered to be Canelo Alvarez's potential opponents are promoted by Eddie Hearn. If you look at the super middleweight division, there is Billy Joe Saunders that holds the WBO belt, and the middleweight division there's Gennady Golovkin, there's Demetrius Andrade. So overall, whoever Canelo Alvarez picks as his next opponent, unless it's Caleb Plant, that's going to be a fighter promoted by Eddie Hearn. And even if he does pick Caleb Plant, what are the chances that Canelo Alvarez goes over to PBC just so he could fight Caleb Plant? Obviously not very big, because Canelo Alvarez would be the ultimate A-side here, and obviously Caleb Plant would go and cross over to Canelo Alvarez's side in order to make that fight. So the chance of Canelo Alvarez's next fight also being promoted by Eddie Hearn is high as well. The point number 3 is if Canelo Alvarez is really planning to go to Japan, to go to the UK and Africa potentially, he's not going to sign for some third promoter just so he would be able to do that. Obviously Eddie Hearn would be the guy to deal with if he was to fight in the UK, and obviously Eddie Hearn has an experience of hosting big money fights in exotic locations. He's got the connections. He promoted Anthony Joshua against Andy Ruiz in the Middle East. There's also a high probability that he might be able to pull off Africa, that he might be able to pull Japan and such locations. So there's no wonder, there's no surprise Eddie Reynoso said, Eddie, it's all on you. And the 4th thing is Eddie Hearn himself and his company Matchroom Boxing would greatly benefit from partnership with Canelo Alvarez. They would instantly become, no question, the biggest promotional company in boxing. That's what Eddie Hearn definitely does want, and I'm sure that the possibility of partnership with Canelo Alvarez is definitely something that Eddie Hearn is more than willing to invest to. And really, if you look at it, if Eddie Hearn was to have Anthony Joshua and Canelo Alvarez, 2 of the biggest superstars in boxing, both signed under his banner, both partnered with Matchroom Boxing, he would no question be the man in the sport of boxing on the promotional side of it. And the positive thing for him, he doesn't even need to have Canelo signed exclusively to DAZN. He could have Canelo signed to Matchroom on a co-promotional deal and not signed directly to DAZN. The same way many other Matchroom fighters are signed to Eddie Hearn, but they do not necessarily have to fight on DAZN. So a lot of things here, a lot of possibilities, all pointing on Canelo Alvarez and Eddie Hearn partnering up, working together on Canelo Alvarez's future fights. Tell us what you think about that. Tell us what do you think is a possibility of Canelo fighting for Matchroom and Eddie Hearn in his future fights. And don't forget to share the video, to subscribe. It helps greatly in making the channel more visible. And that was a report by SPORTZ Insider.